Hi everyone, my name is Alex. I'm going to show you what we do to evaluate property within the Investment Dominator software, and we use that value to then calculate an offer for our landowners. So in this case, we're talking about land, so we're always going to be under the land deals section. You can also access this section by clicking on land deals at the top. And I'm just going to choose this record right here. It's in the Lee County, Florida area. And let's just say that this person, Ken, calls us back and wants to get an offer from us. The first thing we're going to do when they call us is we're going to locate this person. So you can either do it by name or by the ID that's on the letter. But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead in here and search for the last name, bring up the record. Once I find it, I'm going to select the record, and then I'm going to change the status into the pending preliminary research status. This is the status that you want to have the record moved into when you are doing your research and determining an offer. So that's the first step here. Once you got it into this step right here, it's going to be in this bucket called offer requests, along with your other offer requests. You can also find it under reports and offer requests. So we've got our record right here, and you can see here we don't have an offer amount yet. That's what I'm going to show you on how we determine an offer amount. Now with land, it's not the same as houses, right? There's not as much data on land as there is on houses, so it's a little bit different process if you are familiar with the comparable process that you would do on a house to get the value of the house. For land, it's slightly different, and there's actually 3 different methods that Jack teaches on how to get the value of a property. The very first one is that we go after is comparables, is recently sold listings, because at the end of the day, we want to know what can we sell this property for realistically once we have it under contract, once we buy the property. We don't want to get stuck with it. We want to be able to sell it. And the only way for us to sell it is to know right up front what the current market is willing to pay for that particular property in that particular area and in this date and time. If short of that, you're kind of playing a guessing speculation game. So you always want to try to get as much evidence as you possibly can on what the current market value is. Also, I do want to mention that a lot of times when the owner's calling in, we do ask this question in here under edit here, which is basically how much do you think that the property is worth? And if I can find it in here, how long have you owned the property? How did you acquire the property? What is your estimated value of the property? Now, let's just say that this person tells us that they estimated at $30,000. You can enter that in, but this value right here, we're not going to determine our offer based on this. This is we're just trying to gauge what the owner of the property thinks that the property is worth. Now, they could be totally off either way. They could be overvaluing it. In most cases, that's what they are doing. They could be undervaluing it. And a lot of times they just say, hey, I don't know what it's worth. I don't actually know too much about the property. Just send me an offer. So in either case, we're not going to go off what they say. We're just asking the question to just get a feel for how much they value their own property at. So having said that, the process is, if I can go back here, let me go to offer requests, is number one, we need to get the market value. To get the market value, we want to get a zip code for the property and the size of the property if we can. So the way we do that is I'm just going to copy out this APN number, and I'm going to go over to Google and type in Lee County, Florida property appraiser. Sometimes they call it an assessor, but in Florida they call it an appraiser. I'm going to Google that and bring up the county appraiser website. Again, this might be called the assessor's website, but either way, it's the county department that is actually valuating the property for the county. I'm going to put in the APN number of the property and in their search thing, and I'm going to look up this owner or this property. You can see here's Ken, so I know I'm on the right file, and then I'm going to pull up the property details. Now, every county is different, so don't expect that it looks like this exactly, but it's going to look something similar to this. They usually have a parcel search option somewhere, and where you can bring up the parcels just as I did. But the look of it is going to look different. It's going to vary depending on the county you're working in. Okay, so one thing I like to look for is I want to look for the property zip code. So look for something that's called the site address. Sometimes they call it the situs address. Sometimes they call it the property address. But anyways, it's the address associated with the property. Now, a lot of times they actually don't have the address for land, but they might have a zip code for it. So if you see a zip code, you want to copy that zip code out. You at least need that in order to bring up the comparables. And then also I'm looking for the size, as well as what do they value? What does the county value it? So it looks like the county values the property at $10,000 in this case. So if I go back over to my record here, if I am looking under property value, we have the county assessed value. That's going to be set to $10,000. And right now I don't have a market value because I'm unsure of the market value. So to clarify here, the county doesn't is not necessarily correct in their valuation. This $10,000 might be totally off. So what we want to do is just verify that. I would say 90% of the time, this is not an accurate number. So don't go off of this county valuation, but you do use it sometimes, to factor in your pricing of the property or your valuation of the market value. All right, so we're going to copy that over. Now, in this case, if I go to property information, I have already saved the property zip code. If you don't have the property zip code saved, and in this case, I'm just going to remove it real quick so I can show you what happens. What happens is you actually don't have these options up here to evaluate your property. So as soon as you come down here and under property information, you put in the property zip code, and then if you look up here at the top, these options right here are about to change because as soon as I click update record, we get the options for Realtor, Trulia, LandWatch, Zillow, and then we've got a map to the property, and then we've got a calculate offer option. So all that comes into play when you enter in the zip code, and the other factor in this is that you're under the pending preliminary research status. And so those two factors will allow you to bring up those options. Now, the other thing that we like to do is where it says, what is the size of the property? I'm pretty sure this is incorrect, 10,000. Let's go over here to see exactly what the size of it is. And typically they will have some kind of size listed. And I'm just looking for that somewhere. Frontage depth. So it actually has it in feet. So this would be 80 feet by 125 feet. So if you do a little calculation here, then you can go 80 feet times, 80 feet times 125, and then you're going to, which is 10,000. So this would be the square footage. So it's what's incorrect about this is we just have to move this down to the square footage section, and that will correct the issue. So I'm going to go ahead and update the record there. So with those two factors, it's going to actually kind of adjust the parameters of these options here at the top. Now, one thing I want to point out is we don't return a number like a estimate of the value just based on the zip code. We don't do that on purpose. What we do return is Realtor.com, Trulia.com, LandWatch.com, and Zillow.com. The reason why we give you these options is because the whole process that you want to go through is you want to actually look on each one of these sites to look and see how would a potential buyer of this property compare the property that you're trying to sell to the other properties listed or for sale in the area or have sold in the past. Because at the end of the day, a really good market analysis has to do with what do other people interested in buying land think that the property is worth, okay? So it doesn't matter what the owner thinks. his property is worth. It doesn't matter what you think the property is worth or the county thinks the property is worth. At the end of the day, it matters what the person that is wanting to buy the property from you thinks it's worth. And they always base their decisions on what is around that property, okay? It just makes sense. Like if you were searching for a house, you would look at the neighboring houses or the houses in the same neighborhood, and you would compare apples to apples and say, okay, well, this one has an extra bedroom, this one has granite countertops, so I'm going to value it a little bit more, or it doesn't, so I'm going to value it a little less. People are doing the exact same thing for land. They are just looking for what's around. And since land does not have a whole lot of data like in houses, we can't return an accurate number like you would on a house. Having said that, when you click on these tabs here, so I'm going to click on realtor.com and it opens up realtor.com on a different tab. I'm going to click on trulier.com and it opens up in a different tab. And I'm going to click on landwatch.com and it opens it up on a different tab, and Zillow.com. Now, the other thing I like to do is open up the map so I can see where the property is located. And again, this is based on the address that I entered in to the Investment Dominator under the property address field. If I zoom out, I get an idea of where this property is located. All right, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I can see that there's a couple of landmarks like this Route 78 is a landmark. It's towards the ocean versus in between the 41 and the ocean. It's also right across kind of the ocean is an island, is Pine Island. So I'm taking all this into account, and also I'm looking at the roads in here, because what I actually want to do at this point is compare that with the first tab that comes up, which is Zillow. So Zillow has the same exact area, but what I really want to do is focus in on that one little area that the property is located in. So if I look at this map, it's located in south of Yucatan Parkway and north of Tropicana. And so if I go in here and I look at Yucatan Tropicana Parkway, so it's in this area right here, okay? So I actually want to look really close at this area, because this is exactly what a potential buyer is going to look at when they buy it from you. So in here, I'm going to take into a bunch of things into account. The yellow dots are recently sold properties, okay? I'm also going to be looking at the size. So you remember it was 10,000. It was 10,000 square foot. So if we divide that by 43,560, it's actually 0.22 of an acre, or 0.3 of an acre, let's say. So we know it's around a quarter of an acre. So this lot, for example, is a little bit bigger than ours. This one right here is a little bit bigger than ours, but it's generally speaking around the same size, and it's all in the same little neighborhood. Now, it does matter, though, if it's got access to the ocean or not. That is going to play a little bit into your valuation, because people are going to value that more. So if we zoom into the lot itself, you can see that it's actually not against the ocean. It's more in this 37th Ave street. So if we look at 37th Ave right here, it's actually right in here somewhere. So we got to take that into account. So if we look at this lot over here that's on the ocean, that's actually going to be a more higher price valued property than ours, because it's got access to the water. So we just got to take that into account. So now what we're looking for is a property that is ideally recently sold, that falls within the same characteristics. Now, a lot of times, sometimes we cannot do that. We can't find that. But if I look at this, I can see that this property right here doesn't have ocean access. And so this one is valued at 16, or it's listed, because it's got a red dot. It's listed at $16K. So we're going to take that into account. That's on the same side of the street, let's say. And also on this side, this has also not got ocean access. And it's on the other side of the street, and it's listed at 30. Again, this property has not sold yet, so these are just what people are listing them at. So we're looking for a yellow dot if we can that has recently sold. And here we go, up at the top. Now this one's on a different street, but it is kind of in the same neighborhood. And there's similar lots. If I zoom in, you can see this houses are similar. So that's another thing that I'm looking for, is to make sure the houses are similar. And I can see that this one actually just sold for $12,000. And if I look at it, it sold in January, which was only a couple months ago, for $12,000. So that gives me a good indication. Somebody listed a property for $16,000. Here's another one that's not got ocean access for $18,000. So we're starting to see a pattern here where properties are being listed around $16,000, $18,000, $16,000. You can see here $16,000 again. If it doesn't have ocean access, it's around $16,000, $15,000. So, but on average, it's $16,000 is what they're being listed for. Okay, so I've already got that in my mind. And then if you can see what they actually sold for, like this one was $12,000. So we can kind of get an understanding that even though properties are listed for $16,000, they probably in reality are going to sell around $12,000. This guy might have sold it too soon and basically sold it at a discount. So we'll keep that into account as well. If we saw some more sold properties, then I would also keep that into account. But everything I'm seeing here, like this one is sold for $84K. It's near the water. This one's $105. So by being by the water, you definitely are up in the $100,000 range. By being in closer in, not up against the water, you're looking at the $12,000 to $16,000 range for this property. You can see this one sold for $17,000, but it's a little bit bigger than our lot. So looking at all this, just by looking at this neighborhood, I can value this lot at around, I would say, $15,000 is what the market value is. Now, I don't want to just look at Zillow. There's a reason why we are looking at Realtor, Trulia, Land Watch, and Zillow. So I'm going to also, I'm going to make a mental note here that $15,000 is what I think it's worth at this point. But I'm also going to go to another popular land site and take a look at what's listed on that. Because if you were a potential land buyer, you would probably go to Land Watch and just check around and see what's going on in that neighborhood. So here's what's going on in that neighborhood on Land Watch. First of all, there's not a whole lot of prices. They usually list the prices here. So it looks like these people are just creating listings without putting the price amount. So I'm going to just come down here and do a little search. I'm not seeing the prices. So what I want to do instead is look at this arrow right here. You can see that there's 309 properties in that zip code that are listed up, in the $11,000, let's say $12,000 range. So that kind of to the point of the $12,000. There's just as many, if not more, listed in the $12,000 to $15,000 range. So if I click on that, that's kind of in the neighborhood that we think the property is worth. And we can take a look at these properties, and we can see, okay, this one does not have ocean access. This one's actually being sold for $12,000, similar size as ours. So that gives us a good indication that, leaning towards more of the $12,000 valuation versus the $15,000. So bottom line is you're just taking all this stuff into account because you're kind of tracing the steps that a savvy buyer would take when they actually do some research. Now, when you actually go to sell the properties, you probably won't showcase the $12,000 lots. You'll probably showcase some examples of higher priced properties that have sold in the area that are similar to yours. But you do want to be aware of, that these properties are selling for $12,000 in this neighborhood, in this area, because at this point you are making your offer, and you want to be very conservative when you're making your offer because you don't want to lose actual money. So let's go over to Trulia and just do the same thing. And again, with Trulia, there's a map here, so we can zoom into Tropicana. It was like north of Tropicana, so in this area. And here, we get some, you notice also that every site I went to had slightly different data. And that's because, like I said, with land, people post them on all different kinds of sites. So if a property is posted on LandWatch, it might not be posted on Zillow, or it might not be posted on Trulia. So we look at all these different places just to get an idea. Now you can see here, we got property for 15, 11, and 12. So again, we're in that range that we're looking at. Let's say 12 to 15. I would say 15 is kind of on the higher end now that I've taken everything into account, because we've got some 14s in there as well that would be good comparables, and 14s up here, 12s up here. So we're definitely between 12 and 15, but I'm leaning towards the middle of that right now for my valuation. Lastly, I'm going to take a look at Realtor.com, just see where we're at with that. And again, here's a sold one. It's a slightly bigger lot. This is a half an acre. So, and it obviously sold for more money. So we don't necessarily want to use that one as a comparable, although, it is in the same area. But this also is a much bigger lot, 2.5 acres, and this is also a pretty good sized lot. So on Realtor.com, notice that we don't really have any good comparables. So, and that's sometimes the case, and that's perfectly fine. We'll just ignore Realtor.com right now. And so taking all that into account, if we go back into our land record here and we look at property value, county value is at $10,000. And notice that it's definitely worth more than $10,000. It's at least worth 12, or let's say at the very least it's worth 11. But they're not too far off. Now I would value this property if it were my property at around $13,000 is probably what I would list it for. It's like right in the middle of 12 and 15. Maybe 13.5 might be good sale price, market value for the property. When I go to market it, I would definitely market it on the higher end as far as it being worth $15,000, because there is quite a bit of examples of properties selling at 15, even 17,000. So when you get to the marketing stage, you might want to bump this up to 17,000, because there's definitely some evidence that properties are selling at that price range. But for the offer, I would probably evaluate this at, like I said, 13.5 would be a good valuation, and I'm going to go ahead and save that. And once I have that saved, I'm going to go click on the offer calculator, and you can see it put the 13.5 up here under market value. And then it gives me a range. It returns a range of what we would offer this person based on our valuation. So based on this valuation, our minimum offer to this person would be around $1,485. That's probably what we would offer on a minimum starting out. But we wouldn't pay more than $2,160 for this property, because at that point, it's kind of going higher than what Jack would ever offer on a property. You run more risk when you do that, and we would just, if the owner is not willing to sell the property to us less than this, we probably would just pass on the deal. Because we do have marketing expenses, and we do have to close on the property, and all that has to be taken into account. And so with all things considered, this would be our max offer. Now, because these are the suggestions, basically, we do allow you to actually enter in your custom offer. So what we would probably do is, let's just pick, start on the low end, because we can always negotiate up if we're in the area. So what I like to do is take a look at this number here, and $1,500 looks a lot better than $1,485. So I would definitely be above $1,500 here. I would type in 1,500, let's say $30.33, and we would actually make an offer like that. And the reason I did 15 instead of 14 is it looks a lot better, but it's not that much more money to us. Okay, so I would type in 1530.33, save that by clicking the save button, and then closing out of this. Now, once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and update the record. And what I'm going to do is go over to my land deals. Now, when I'm under offer requests here, I would actually determine the values of all my properties before I generate the offers, because we like to do everything in bulk. So I would make sure that, you know, I evaluated this property. Let's say I valued this one at 25.33, and this one was 24. Sorry, 24.30. 30, 25. Let's say that I set these offer amounts. Now, what you'll notice is over time, you actually get familiar with the areas, and you can actually create your offers quite quickly, because over time, you're going to see what the relationship between what the county values the property at and what the actual market value is. So I would definitely go through the process that I just walked you through for the first few properties in a given area, because it doesn't take very long, but it gives you that assurance that you've looked at the properties through the eyes of a person that would buy it from you, which is how you want to be approaching this. Now, once you've got all your values saved, you're going to go under Generate Documents, and then now you can go ahead and generate your cover letters, your offers, and you're good to go. So here's a cover letter that you're going to send to the person with your offer, and they're going to get an offer saying that, hey, I evaluated your deal, and in this case, let's take a look at the one that we were working on, which was this one right here. It says, Ken, you know, I've determined that I'm going to offer you $1,500.30 or $15.30.33. If he did have some back taxes, we would actually put that in there, and it would actually be minus from the net to the total. You print this off, you're going to sign this and send this out to Ken, and Ken is going to look at this, and he's going to say, either he's going to say, like, yep, good, I don't care about this property, that sounds good to me because I'm not going to do anything with this property anyways, or he's going to want to renegotiate, and in that case, you can actually use the calculated offer. If you come back here, if Ken calls back and wants to renegotiate, you can actually bring up this calculator again and say, okay, well, you know, let's say that he wants $3,000. You can say, well, I mean, the very most I would pay for this property is $2,160, and then see what he says, and you can renegotiate that way. All right, so I hope that helps. This is exactly the exact process that we go through to determine a value or to determine the value of a property. And so there is a reason why we don't just return a estimated value based off a zip code, because if we did that, it would actually not be correct. Things like the Zestimate of a property, that's never correct when it comes to this. So we definitely don't want to go off of that. So what we do instead is take you to the areas, allow you to search around, and determine your offer based on the guidelines that Jack explains in the Land Profit Generator. So if you want more information about how we evaluate properties, go to the landprofitgenerator.com, or if you've already got the Land Profit Generator, log in there and take a look at the modules regarding evaluating your properties or doing research on your properties. And then you can refer to this video on how it relates to evaluating your properties within the Investment Dominator. All right, hope that helps. Have a great day. Goodbye.